To dear Omner, my once and always friend, salutations. I wrote you long months ago of Enoch's telling us that there was yet another commandment we must live that many of us might find hard to bear. We now know what that commandment is. We must give over all our goods and possessions, sharing them fully with each other, so that all may be equal in goods and substance. We who have laboriously learned not to withhold affection and esteem from each other must now no longer hold back our goods. Enoch promises that if we will do this, there will be no poor among us. For so many of those newly come to the city are poor, and yet they have heard Enoch's words gladly. Enoch has come among us more than ever before to exhort us regarding this new commandment. Yes, Abner, you who have watched me husband and enlarge my fortune so carefully for so long would be puzzled. Yet those of us who now have begun to be of one heart and of one mind must begin to be one in the things of this world. Enoch tells us that it is not given that one man should possess that which is above another. Wherefore the world lieth in sin. I have never before thought of these differences among men as a source of sin. Yet surely those who have had their minds diverted to the care and attention of their possessions are often inclined to pride themselves on being above their neighbor. If our possessions are greater than those of our neighbors, we think that we ourselves are greater than our neighbors. Moreover, those who have little are often inclined to canker their souls with greed and envy. Thus our hearts are either where our treasure is, or worse, where someone else's treasure is. So much of mankind's talents and thoughts are enthralled with things instead of truths. Tithing, about which I wrote you previously, has helped prepare us for this higher way, and so have the morals of our marketplace, where men do not seek to enlarge their profit from the necessities of others. Even this hard commandment is given to us so that we might live it voluntarily and not out of force or constraint. Some who could practice cooperation, but not consecration, here have freely left our midst. This is one of the great joys of life in the city of Enoch. Freedom and free agency are valued herein. Things are not imposed upon us. We do things out of devotion, not docility. We accept new teachings as steps to be taken if we are to draw ever closer to our God, and therefore we undertake to do our duties gladly, learning even as we obey. When some who had been so righteous in other ways were counseled to give all they had to the poor, they went away sorrowing because their possessions were so great. Yet, if we truly ponder our circumstance, it must become clear that God gives us first breath, and second the perishable gift of time. He then gives us increase. Now he asks only that we return his temporal gifts as evidence of our capacity to consecrate to him all things whatsoever we possess. But even as we yield, so much more is given to us in other blessings. God is a generous landlord, Omner. We are but his stewards. We now see clearly, as pertaining to our goods and possessions, that unless we are equal in earthly things, we cannot be equal in heavenly things. We can have goods in common because we first have Christ in common. Only an uncommon people can have their possessions in common. And even then, the challenge is very real and constant. When men desire to be distinguished by rank, what they really seek is not only recognition, but to be distinguished from others, whether by wealth or wisdom. By separating themselves from the multitude, they presume a preeminence. But the work of the Lord is to be done among the multitudes, as he himself will do during his earthly ministry. Yet it is not easy, for each of us has possessions we value highly, but which we must lay aside if we are to be true disciples. We may be impatient or even amused at the challenge this new commandment poses for others. Why should a man who cultivates vineyards find the giving up of his lowly pruning shears so hard? Why does he not yield these shears quickly? Yet each finds his own circumstances different and trying. I have seen, for instance, some who the giving up of costly apparel is a great trial. I have never cared that much for raiment, as you know, but before I let myself be much amused at such travail in others, I must note that it was not easy for me to surrender my precious gems, which, as you know, I have husbanded over many years. I have enjoyed the mere handling of them and the passing of them through my fingers. The sense of possession has given me a sense of security, and I miss my gems now that they are gone. I once spoke almost reverently of them as works of nature's to be prized. As I watched sunlight dance through their prisms, it was a near lust for me. Fortunately, I've been so caught up in my duties and in the joy we have daily in association with each other that service to others has helped me to surrender my gems more easily. But finally, Amr, there has come the convincing and sober realization that they were not mine after all. It is easier to give up that which is not ours. Of course, Amr, all do not seek to accumulate possessions because of greed alone. For some, displaying prowess in trading is an adventure not unlike an adventure in arms. But such are unknowingly turning aside from the great adventure of affording affection in their own family, or are missing the likewise stern challenge of expressing esteem for their neighbors. More than once have I witnessed those here who were once of a rank in the world give way gladly to make place at a feast for those whom they might once have scoffed at because of their lowliness of station. Those who have in the past pushed others in order that they might further their own ambitions are now not only civil, but willingly deferential. This can be so because among the things we also have in common is the sweet knowledge that we are all children of God, our Father. Given that glad reality, there is no need to prove anything to anybody after the manner of the world. The sense of eternity that likewise pervades this place lessens those of our anxieties which are rooted in the thing we men call time. Here busyness, in order to be seen of men, calls forth only knowing smiles, not plaudits. You will remember my mentioning how the artisans and craftsmen among us have been given their tasks. Beautiful new buildings are now rising, the architecture and splendor of which please beyond compare the mortal eye. We hope we are pleasing to the Lord. The gardens in our villas are of incomparable beauty. In the midst of all this achievement, no man esteems himself above his neighbor, for each has gifts. The artisan is not looked down upon by those who have duties to oversee him. If ever the puzzled and perplexed critics of the city of Enoch could be objective and not merely angry at that which is good, they would see that believing in Jesus Christ brings out the individual talents of men in a way that is not otherwise possible. Thus, in the emerging excellence of the ways and wonders in Enoch City, I perceive that those who worship the Creator are exceedingly creative. It is so much easier, however, to learn both what to do and how to do it, when we first know why things must be done at all. Too often, Omner, the talented withhold their talents because of the pique or confusion as to why they must help others. Here, that confusion is dispelled with dispatch. The dullness in the world is the dullness of degraded people believing in degraded doctrines. The world you and I knew together is not, of course, without its achievements or its points of beauty, but these are the work of a few. Their monuments to beauty mark occasional individual talent, not a way of life. Such isolated beauty is too often later dimmed by time, but at once by unharmonious surroundings. Not so here in the city of Enoch, the splendor of which grows each day. Ours is not the splendor of the rich who create by the misery of the poor. This splendor springs from the work of all our people, each of whom revels in the talents and accomplishments of the other. Each is inclined to glorify God rather than himself, and to thank God first for giving talents that made such beauty possible. We once saw this city only through eyes of faith. We now see it emerging with our natural eyes, and we are glad. Please send me word, Abner, of your own struggle for faith. I pray daily for you, and would come to you if duty is permitted. I renew my plea to send missionaries to you. In your skepticism, you have said often that seeing is believing. Believing is also seeing, Abner. Yours in the love and peace of the Lord, Mahijah.